Raise your hand if you're married. None of you are married. Raise your hand if you would like to be married to your baby's father. One. The rest of you who don't plan to get married, why don't you plan to get married? I'd like to know that.
You already have your child to think about, and then a whole family to care for. You know, it's a lot of responsibility, and then you don't want the commitments.
I wouldn't want no man holding me down because I think I can make it as a single parent.
But don't you think you might need help in raising that baby from a man?
Not really. I didn't have a father. My father wasn't in the home, so you know it really male figures are not substantially important in the family.
Clarinda was only 15 when she got pregnant with her daughter, Shaquana. She is not unusual. Half of all black teenagers become pregnant. Clarinda has never been married. She's still living with her mother at home, where she's raising her baby daughter. Clarinda goes to a special school for dropouts after she takes her daughter to a daycare center. She has 5th grade math skills and reads at a 6th grade level.
When I got pregnant, I said, well, I'm going to have this baby, and she's not going to stand in the way of my education. I'm not going to let no one stand in the way of my education. I ain't going to be like these other girls, just drop out, can't get no job, no money, have to be on welfare.
Caesar Milan, how to add years to your dog's life. Sardines.
9.
Bone broth.
10.
On the vocabulary. Bingo. Clarinda learned about birth control in sex education courses, but she still became pregnant. You think it was a mistake?
I'll say no, because I wasn't on any, birth control methods. Neither was he. And, we were sexually active, and when it happened, it just happened.
When you think back to that day when you learned you were pregnant, what went through your mind?
Oh, gosh, I'm going to tell my mother. And I'm going to tell my mother she going to make me get an abortion. I was really scared, I think.
Why didn't you want to get an abortion?
Because I wanted his baby.
What did you like about it?
His legs.
His legs?
I got a thing for bow-legged boys.
Bow-legged boys.
I love them. They have some gorgeous legs. I just don't know.
Darren Lyle is the father of Clarinda's baby. He is 18 and lives in central Newark. He dropped out of high school when he was 16. He has never held a steady job.
Society has made living for the women without the husband or without the man easy.
Oh?
Yeah, welfare. I think welfare is not the best thing for everybody. Teenage pregnancy cannot be stopped by programs. It has to be morals, and morals come from God. And somewhere along the line, the black family kind of strayed away from that. And I believe we need it.
You say the moral values have changed.
Oh, yes. It's morally acceptable to have babies. It was not morally acceptable years ago. That's hurting the black family. But we're content to be in this well now. Okay, we're just content to be in this mud, and we need to get out of it. There aren't any great white people running around in this block tearing up stuff. It's us. We've got to stop doing that.
Does the civil rights movement, which came to its peak in the 60s, have anything to say to this?
The civil rights to the young people now is a foreign word. What does it really mean to them? They don't have any knowledge about it.
The issue now is different, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I'm quite sure it is. If Martin Luther King were alive, he would not be talking about the things I think he was talking about, labor and all that. I think he'd be talking about the black family.
And you're worried about the survival of the black family. You think it's precarious?
I think it's going to be an endangered species.
Much later.
Wait. Listen to me for 1 minute, please, if you don't mind. I am a mother of 6, and we are currently living in a hotel. I don't know what we're going to do as of in the morning because I don't have it to pay. So if you could just hit all the buttons and share this out, and I'm hoping to reach someone who don't mind.
The fact that
Motherfuckers wait till you literally down bad, crashing out. Literally, like, to act like they give a fuck about your ass. Like, motherfucker don't give a fuck literally until your ass dead in the casket. Literally. Like, and then it's the fact that when I do die, I swear to God, I don't want no fucking funeral. I don't want no fake ass motherfucker sitting around lying about how they love my ass. For the whole time I was living, I'm struggling. I can't call nobody, not a piece of family, a sister, a cousin, a brother, a shit to ask for shit. Not $100, not $50, not $25. I can't call nobody and ask for shit. But when I'm up and I got it and I'm giving shit out, it's not a problem to motherfuckers. Like, I'm just so tired of being tired, G. I swear to God, like, I'm tired of being a single mama. I'm tired of taking care of 2 kids by myself. I'm tired of this shit, G. Like, I swear to God, I'm so fucking tired. Like, I don't want to be here, G. Like, I don't really.
Listen to me when I say this. Do not have kids if you don't know the possibilities of your chance, the possibility and risk of your kids having Down syndrome, autism, being on the spectrum, cerebral palsy, all the above. Do not have kids. I'm tired. Every day is something. And then on top of that, me not having help from nobody, having no support system, nobody. He's with me 24/7. If you don't have no support system, if nobody's willing to get your kids and keep them a couple days so you can accomplish stuff, do stuff, get a peace of mind, even for a couple hours, don't have no kids. Every day I tell myself, like, this is just too much for me. And then I question myself. And then I just be feeling like you don't even deserve. It's just not fair.
I am upset at the situation that I'm in with having to be a single mom. You prayed for this. Well, I prayed to God for a whole lot of things. And he has yet to give it to me. So why am I still stuck in this situation of being a single mom? I hate being a single mom.
After spending 50 years on Wall Street, I just handpicked the company I believe could go down as
I fucking hate being a mom. I fucking hate being a parent. Like, I fucking hate it. And I feel bad for saying that, but like, I wish someone would have let people with BPD know that, like, we really shouldn't be moms. Like, having a kid is too fucking complicated. And I don't want to do it. Like, I don't want to be responsible for this tiny human. I just want to be responsible for myself, and it's too late now.
I really try to get on this app and not make content about being a single mom and how hard it is and whatnot, because it's like the world really has no sympathy for that. They don't care. Like, they feel like, well, you laid down, you should have chose a better person, blah, 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 everything stupid under the sun. But I just went into work at 1:30 a.m., got off by 9 a.m. As soon as I hit the door, my kids are screaming, yelling, and crying. Before I left out, they were screaming, yelling, and crying. Really, it's just my youngest. I don't know if y'all can hear him right now. But when I tell y'all, I am so exhausted, so tired, so overwhelmed. Like, I'm trying not to cry right now because I know all my sons need is my attention and my reassurance. But I can't provide that to them right now. I am running on E. Do you know how hard it is to pour from an empty cup or pour from a cup that someone isn't pouring into? Simple things like comforting my kids, being slow to anger with my kids, showing up emotionally. I have such a hard time doing because I am so fucking drained.
Something people don't really tell you about being a single mom is how heavy it can feel mentally. Because you're the one doing everything on your own. But it's more than just tasks. It's being the one who's always has to think about everything. Every decision, every plan, every problem. There's no, can you handle this today? There's no real way to mentally clock out. If I'm being honest, there are days I just sit there and I wonder if I'm even doing a good enough job. Not because I don't love my child, because carrying everything alone is exhausting.
Sometimes we are just burnt out. We're carrying too much for too long on our own and we need some help. Imagine if you had a whole trunk full of groceries and you started loading all those bags on your arms. So much so your circulation is cutting off, your arm is turning red, it's starting to hurt. Now imagine you filled up both arms with as much as possible and even in your hands, and now you have to walk miles and miles and miles. You barely get to take breaks. You just went from, ouch, this hurts a bit, to, oh my gosh, I'm exhausted, this is too much, I cannot do it, I'm burnt out now. Now imagine a group of people came and was like, let me help you, let me take some of that off your hands. You're gonna be like, oh, yes, finally, thank God. Why? Because you're sharing the load. You need support. You need a community. You don't need a huge team of people behind you, even if you just have 2 or 3. But you need other people to help you and pour into you as well. You need them to come help you lighten up that load.
One of the most beautiful things about God is how he redeems the story of a single mother. Because some people will look at you as the single mom and think, oh, struggle, mistake, setback. But God, he sees strength. He sees covering. He sees purpose. Because what the enemy used to embarrass you, God will use to build you.
You know, when you have women now in 2026 who are crashing out and they are talking about, oh, why is it so difficult to get married? Why is it so difficult to find love? Why is it so difficult to, you know, like they act as if all these things happen in a vacuum. They act as if, you know, just Black men woke up one day and then just all of a sudden, you know, decided to do a max exodus over the Black community. They act as if there wasn't a culture that has cultivated what's going on today. And so, again, as I've mentioned before, a big reason that so many Black women are not married is because they simply do not want to be. And more specifically, they're not cultivated to actually do that. And when y'all saw that video that I played, just, you know, at the beginning, you had different women. You had multiple different women, young baby mamas. Basically, when the interview was talking to him, he was saying, hey, you know, how many of you guys want to get married? How many of you guys want to get married to your baby daddy, basically? And I think there was one out of all of those girls. I mean, it was, you know, at least it seemed like it was a dozen, you know, girls in there, moms. And I think there was maybe one who raised her hands. And mind you, this was back in the 80s. And so you have to remember, those were our mothers, our grandmothers. Those were the women who raised us. Those women who, you know, 4 or 5 decades ago were saying fathers are not important. Fathers are not necessary to the home. Fathers are not essential. My daddy wasn't in the home. So therefore, if I raise my son or my daughter without a daddy in the home, it's not a big deal. This is what they were saying 4 or 5 decades ago. So now you can't now fast forward 2026 and you know you've had these boys grew up hearing daddy isn't important, men are not necessary in the home, fathers aren't essential in the home. You had girls and boys growing up hearing this who would turn into men and women. You can't hear that message over and over and over again. Add to that, you know, feminism. Add to that, you know, toxic, this modern culture. Add to that the advent of social media. Add to that just so many different things. Romance novels, a lot of these different dating shows that have only cultivated, in my opinion, a more unrealistic dating and relationship standard. Like you can't do that for decades upon decades upon decades, and then all of a sudden in 2026 be surprised when you have men who are not around, or when you have men who are not actively engaged, or when when it's hard to see a proliferation, if you will, or a growth of marriage. Like, you cannot be surprised when for decades, the message has been fathers are not necessary. My daddy wasn't around. men are not necessary in the home. Like, she literally said that. She literally said that out of her mouth. And so I just showed you guys one example. Many Black women are not married because they don't want to be. And more specifically, many Black women are not married because they are not cultivated to be. I showed you a video from decades ago of young women who were our mothers and grandmothers and aunties and grandmas who were saying men were not necessary. These are the ones who raised millennials. These are the ones who raised Gen X, some of them. These are the ones who raised, like, they're the elders. They're the ones saying, my father wasn't around. Men aren't necessary to the home. They were saying that. So why would ladies be confused? Why would they be confused? Why would they be confused, right? So that's the first. But I just wanted to start off by playing that, because baby mama culture it's insane at this point. Unfortunately, it's only grown. It's only gotten worse since that video has, or since that documentary released over 40 years ago. It's only gotten worse, unfortunately, and we have to talk about it. So I wanted to start off by playing that. However, there are many more, or there are, I'll say a few, there are quite more, but there's only a few that I want to highlight in this particular live. This is the one that I wasn't able to cover off on my last live that I did, like I said, a few weeks ago, where I had to cut it off short. So I'm gonna bring up some examples and we're gonna get into it. But anyways, guys, like, share, subscribe. For those of you guys who are here, I know I'm kind of tuning in a little late. I usually try not to go this late when I can, but you know, sometimes things happen. It is what it is. Life has been busy, all good stuff. But now I'm just trying to get these things in when I can. So, yeah, y'all like, share, subscribe. And now let's go on. I'm going to show you guys I won't say the first, but one of many examples of why Black women are the least married. So the first reason we talked about why Black women are the least married, because they don't want to be. And more specifically, baby mama culture has created a narrative that many Black women have accepted that essentially says men are not necessary, men are not essential, fathers are not in the home. Those kinds of beliefs, those kinds of narratives produce scores and scores and scores of women who are trained to do things by themselves, but have no understanding on how to work together with a man or how to build a family. Because all they were trained to do was survive. All they were trained to do is to get along without a support system, was to get along without men, was to get along without the accountability of a relationship, right? Without the leadership of a male authority figure. They were trained how to survive without that. And so that is one primary reason. These women were trained, they were trained to not be wives, right? They were trained to be survivors. They were trained to be baby mamas. They were trained to be single mothers. They were trained to do exactly what they saw, but they were not trained to be wives, and they were not trained to know how to get along with men. This is a big reason so many Black women today are not married. They don't even know how to be. Even if their husband, their ideal husband, walked up to them in their face, they wouldn't even know how to receive it, because they have no skill, they have no understanding. And sometimes there's a lot of brainwashing too that they have to work through in order to be able to get along with a man and not crash out. Now, here's something else we have to talk about, and this is obviously very connected to the baby mama culture. We're going to talk about feminism. And I have to give a shout out to Mr. G. Hey, what's going on, Game Changer? Good to see you in the building. Good to see you in the building. Shout out to you. Yes, they were trained to be producer. Absolutely agree. For those of you guys who are like, share, subscribe. So anyways, another one I want to talk about, and I'm just going to review this. Shout out to Mr. Z, because actually on my last live, when I was kind of, talking a little bit about the subject or bringing it up, he pointed me to this video between Gloria Steinem and Bell Hooks. And these are two prominent feminists. And I just found the clip absolutely fascinating. First of all, I had no idea Gloria Steinem ended up being a passport cis. And we will see that the Gloria Steinem, the white feminist matriarch, if you will, pretty much ended up being a passport cis.
But what we're going to also find in that little clip where she basically acknowledges that she was a passport cis and that she basically ended up, dating a South African man in her 60s because she wanted him to move over. And she acknowledged that she was basically the financial breadwinner and that she had more, material success. You're going to see Bell Hooks scoff at the idea of a empowered woman getting with a man who essentially cannot pay the bill. So I want to play that because what we also have to recognize, and I would argue, is a second primary reason that Black women are not married or some of the least married is because of feminism, and specifically how feminism, Black feminism, has, I believe it's brainwashed Black women in a way unlike any other culture because of the unique challenges we already face, such as fatherlessness, such as having a single parent household. Like Black people, they were already to a certain extent starting at the bottom when it comes to having any understanding of a functional family. And so now when you add to that feminism or when you add to that a lot of these other toxic narratives, I just think it just, like Black women adopted feminism, it seems like, more in a way that no other race did. You had a lot of white women who were still, talking all this feminist BS, but at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, they still sided with Trump. And that's why Black women were mad, because you had all these women who were like all this, talking about all this camaraderie, talking about all this sisterhood, but when it came down to it, they sided with Trump. They sided with a white patriarch. And that's kind of been a consistent theme. That's the difference between white women. When it comes down to brass tacks, when it comes down to it, white women have shown, certainly through voting patterns and just through history, that they ultimately are going to side with their white men because they know that white patriarchy, even if they have issues with it, are still going to give them a level of power, support, money, status, etc. Whereas Black women, they want to burn the whole thing down, right? I won't say that. Black feminism alleges to be about burning the whole thing down. But quite frankly, I've found in my own investigation that many Black feminists, they actually just want to replace white women. But nevertheless, what I'm saying is white women oftentimes, many white feminists, as we've seen in the Gloria Steinem, they'll say all this hoorah stuff, but at the end of the day, they still getting with their white man. They still marrying their white men. Black women, it was different. They embraced feminism, and with it, stepped out of marriage, and in many ways stepped away from the family structure. And that has and still continues to have long-term ramifications. So I'm going to show you this. It's a really short clip. Again, shout out to Mr. Z. He's the one that brought it to my attention. But you're going to see these two prominent feminists go back and forth. And I think I have to play it because I think it's really interesting. Let me see. Okay, let me see. I think it's back. Is it right here? Let's see. Okay. So I think it's right here, guys. Okay. Shout out to Mr. Z for finding me this clip. Oh, wait. Okay. Sorry, you guys. Let me share it. I'm sorry, I was playing it, but you guys didn't see it. So bear with me one moment. Let me share this with you guys so you can actually see what I'm talking about. Also, shout out to you, Mr. Z. It says they adopted feminism because they wanted to be white women, and the only white women they knew personally were liberal feminists. Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. That makes sense. And again, that's not to say, of course, there were white feminists who, fully embraced, didn't marry, they did the whole feminist thing. Of course that existed. But if we are to look collectively, yet and still collectively white women, while they may have had or said things that were considered to be more liberal, liberating, yet and still they oftentimes they operated in such a way that maintained conservative patriarchy. That's that's what we've seen with respect to the numbers. Okay, so it's just a little quick conversation happening between Bell Hooks and Gloria Steinem. It's probably like a 2-minute section that I really want to highlight, but I'm just going to play it and then we're going to break it down, because now we're on, point number 2 as to why I believe Black women are some of the least married. And a second reason would be because of feminism. Okay, so let's play it.
Domain in which we have control. So what if they don't do it right? I mean, I grew up on candy bars and black raspberry ice cream with my father. Right.
Well, so, I mean, since we're talking about transgression, let's hear some about your marrying a man after years of not doing that. And
at 66, I figure I was 66 when I got married. Okay.
So talk some about that.
Well,
a lot of people were disappointed and angry. Like, how could she betray the movement?
No, well, it's always good to be unexpected, I feel. We loved each other. We wanted to be together. We were together. He had been born in South Africa, so he was having visa problems. He was sure that all the folks in the INS, the then INS, were out to get him, and so we began to talk about it, and we realized that the only way he could be sure of having a green card was through marriage, because then it becomes the right of the U.S. citizen, right? I don't think at that age, he was 59 or 60, I was 66. I don't think we would have thought about marriage if it hadn't been for the green card situation. But it wasn't that we didn't love each other, want to be together. We did.
So did marriage change you?
No. At 66, you think you're going to change? No.
I guess she changed him. You'd call her house and he'd answer the phone and he'd say, "Hello, goddess."
Yeah, he was a really loving, kind, wonderful man who I guess I should credit my father with, because also, like my father, he also had no possessions. He didn't give a shit about money. He was carrying his jeans around.
Not the kind of man for me.
So y'all heard that part right there? She said, oh, he was, he had basically no possessions, didn't care about money. He wasn't money status. He wasn't the statusy guy. He didn't have the career. He wasn't the kind of alpha man, the white man with the beard and the huge trust fund and all this money. Like, he wasn't the kind of typical tall Ivy League white guy that a lot of these swirlers aspire for. It sounded like he was what some would call, now she's not going to say him that, but some would call him a quote dusty unquote, because he didn't have all the money. Now, she didn't seem to care, because obviously he was bringing other value to her life. But she said it in a way that was a lot more, I would say was a lot more she tried to make it more romantic, like, oh, he had a beautiful heart and he was caring and he wasn't caught up in status and he wasn't changed, or he wasn't moved by money, so she basically was ascribing all these qualities to it. But notice how Bell Hooks was quick to be like, oh, he not for me. You mean he don't have money? Wait, he didn't have money? What? You mean he didn't care about money? You mean he didn't have no possessions? Oh, he wasn't for me. These are two prominent feminist women, what? And it's interesting because Gloria Steinem, although they were mad at her, like she said, ladies felt like she betrayed the movement because she decided to get married. Yet and still, she's demonstrating in her own life, I agree, what would be considered more equality. Because she wasn't saying, oh, he has to be, six pack, six figures, this and that. She found a dude that she liked. She was willing to fit the bill. She was willing to get him a visa. She was willing to marry the dude so that he could become. She basically was willing to pay the way, pay the way to a certain extent. And hey, if it was true love, I'm not mad at it. But here's the thing about it. That's what feminism fought for. Feminism fought, right? It fought for the ability for women to be able to choose. If a woman wants to be able to choose, if she wants to be able to, become a passport sis and go fund her boyfriend or her husband or get her a little man on the side or whatever. If she wants to be the big dog and pay all the bills, she should be able to do that. That's what feminism fought for. So to a certain extent, Gloria Steinem, although the ladies were kind of hating on her, she's operating more from a feminist lens as far as her being willing to be the provider in that sense, to be the one to give him citizenship, give him, probably access to her resources, do these different things. She's operating under that paradigm of equality. But notice how Bell Hooks and all her Black feminist ways was quick to be like, oh, he was not for me. He's not for me. And I thought that was really something. That was really something. She was like, what? Because she was quick to be like, oh, he didn't really have possessions. I'm going to play that section really quick, because I'm like, that to me is what stood out.
Feel. We loved each other. We wanted to be together. We were together. He had been born in South Africa, so he was having visa problems. He was sure that all the folks in the INS, the then INS, were out to get him, and so we began to talk about it, and we realized that the only way he could be sure of having a green card was through marriage, because then it becomes the right of the U.S. citizen, right? I don't think at that age, he was 59 or 60, I was 66. I don't think we would have thought about marriage if it hadn't been for the green card situation. But it wasn't that we didn't love each other, want to be together. We did.
So did marriage change you?
No. At 66, you think you're going to change? No.
I guess she changed him. You'd call her house and he'd answer the phone and he'd say, hello, goddess.
Yeah, he was a really loving, kind, wonderful man who I guess I should credit my father with, because also, like my father, he also had no possessions. He didn't give a shit about money. He was carrying his jeans around.
Not the kind of man for me.
Y'all heard it. Y'all heard it. Now, I wanted to play that. I wanted to play that because for all this talk about cutting down the patriarchy and ending the patriarchy, all of those different things, notice how she was quick to be like, oh, not the man for me. As soon as Gloria Steinem went on to talk about the ways in which he was not particularly moved by money, image, status. And the reason I put patriarchy in the thumbnail is because we have seen time and time again, the amount of Black women, or just the amount of women, period, because this is just a modern woman thing. But since we're talking about Black women, we've seen plenty of Black women who are very quick to talk about feminism and very quick to talk about, wanted to fight the patriarchy and wanted to be pro-Black women, and at the same time are absolutely dedicated to the idea that men need to pay all the bills, that men need to pursue them, that men need to be chivalrous, that men need to be the one to propose. Like, they are dedicated to men still being these very traditional patriarchs while actually not operating under the paradigm of patriarchy. I mean, Mr. Z put it this way, right? It's like it's feminism by, patriarchy by feminist specifications. So they basically want the benefits of patriarchy while not actually having to engage in the rules associated with it. They want the protection, they want the provision, they want the status, and they want the money that a patriarch would ultimately provide, but they don't want the submission, they don't want to listen, they don't want the guidance, then they don't want the leadership or the accountability. And I found this clip, although it was very, very short, I found it to be so revealing, because what I believe Bell Hooks is speaking to, again, this is another belief that we see very, very prominent in Black American culture. Black women are very liberated. They talk about all the time how Black women have college degree. They are starting the most businesses. They are the most educated. They are out achieving Black women. We've all heard that all day, every day. These women are so liberated, but at the same time, they are very, very, very open and quick about how Black men need to pay this, how Black men need to, get college degrees because they want men who have status. They want men who have they want men specifically who have the corporate status. They want men who can get them into these nice spaces and places. Like, they talk out of both sides of their mouth. And more specifically, they claim to be against patriarchy while still demanding the benefits of it. And in this particular case, the benefits of patriarchy would be, hey, a man who's able to handle all these things, pay these bills, have this money image status. Gloria Steinem was essentially talking in a way that her husband, I think her late husband at the time, to my understanding, he was known to be an entrepreneur, and he was known to be like an animal rights person. If you look up his biography, they said he was into animal rights, he was an activist there, et cetera, et cetera. Now, the way she's describing him, he's like, he owned no possessions. He said he didn't, he was not about money. So the way she's describing it, this man didn't have a lot of stuff. Now, you know what I mean? So, but the case in point is she's making it clear her late husband was a man of character. He wasn't the one who was, doing the whole chivalry thing. She was the one in very many ways who got him a passport, who, married him, helped get him a green card, helped make him legal, right? Like, she was the one who was doing that. She was the one who was in the more patriarchal, position. Gloria Steinem was. And as she's describing that position, Bell Hooks is very quick. She does it, in kind of a joking way, but she's very quick to be like, that's not the man for me. And what is that saying? What exactly is that saying? Well, to me, what that's saying is patriarchy. Patriarchy is another reason, in my opinion, that Black women are not married. And not the patriarchy I'm talking about. I'm talking about the patriarchy where it's like these ladies claim to be feminists and liberated, but really what they want is they want the benefits of patriarchy without actually having to abide by the rules of patriarchy. That's really what they want. And we saw that here in this very quick example. And many of you guys have experienced this in your own anecdotal life. And this is exactly why the likes of Kevin Samuels was so popular, because you saw women time and time again who were basically coming online and who were literally walking contradictions. That's what made Kevin Samuels so incredibly popular. I mean, that was one of many reasons, but I think that was a big reason. The amount of women who came online and just were completely delusional, it was like the cat's out the bag. And so we talked about, okay, what's the main reason Black women are the least married? I believe there's multiple reasons for this. We talked a little bit about, baby mama culture. And what has that produced? Baby mama culture has produced a mentality of women who really believe that men are not necessary to the home. Unfortunately, when you have generations that have accepted that message, these women actually don't know how to get along with men. They're raised to be baby mamas, they're raised to survive, and they're raised to be single mothers, but they are not raised to know how to actually get along with a man, and they're not raised to know how to actually raise a family. They're not taught to do that. And so now when they're an adult and they struggle to figure out why they can't get in a family, why they can't get married, or why they can't find support, or why they can't find someone to work with, it's because they weren't even given the tools to do so. It's actually not confusing when you start to look at it practically. When you've had a culture that's been cultivated for generations that say men are not necessary to the home, and you had girls and boys who were cultivated and trained under that belief system, you can't therefore be surprised when men aren't in the home. When now, fast forward, you're an adult and the man isn't there. I mean, that's what you were trained to believe. So now you have these single women, a lot of them, baby mamas, are crashing out, because the economy and a lot of these governmental programs are going away. Things are getting more expensive. It's just becoming harder and harder for them to be able to survive by themselves the way their mothers or grandmothers did. And they're like, where are the men? Like, why don't I have any help? Why don't I this and that? And it's like, well, men aren't there because men were told essentially that they're not necessary. That's why they're not there. That's literally why they're not there. And so baby mama culture, it's produced a very false, very toxic narrative that a lot of people, sometimes they don't even know that they're perpetuating it. Women don't even always know that they're perpetuating it until they find themselves in that situation. And then, unfortunately, you choose a baby daddy, you choose a kind of man who can't be there. You may not choose a kind of man who would actually want to be there for the child, or who would want to actually work with you and build a family and a legacy. You might be drawn to the man who is absentee because that's what you're used to. So we have that, right? Now, a second reason is obviously feminism. Feminism is another really big reason. Now, I wanted to play this clip because we see that there's a key difference between, even in this little interaction, we see there's a bit of a difference between, Gloria Steinem and how she's describing her relationship ideals, and Bell Hooks in the way that she's describing her relationship ideals. But more specifically, feminism, I think it's produced a culture in women and Black women that is unrealistic. And more specifically, it's unrealistic because a lot of these ladies claim to be about patriarchy and liberation and wanting equality, while still requiring that men, Black men, white men ideally, be traditional patriarchs. But traditional patriarchs and provision and money and status, and in giving them whatever they want. But not traditional patriarchs when it comes to accountability, when it comes to discipline, when it comes to order, when it comes to leadership. They want the benefits of patriarchy without actually having to engage in the rules of it. That's what feminism has become. And we see that clearly in the dating market. How many liberated women are there who have their own job, their own car, they have their own resources, they may even have a 401k, they may even have their own condo, and they can go on vacation every quarter if they want to. And yet and still they're mad because men won't open the doors for them. Men are no longer helping them carry their groceries. If they live in a place like Chicago, men aren't there helping them, move the snow if they need to. Like, these women are complaining that men aren't doing men things, but these are the same women who are actually liberated and who were essentially looking to be equal. And so it's just, it's crazy. It's crazy. It doesn't work. And we clearly see it doesn't work because of the results, but we have to start to look at these ideas and really examine them for what they are. And as I mentioned, and they want men to do whatever they want them to do while they still have the ability to be liberated one moment, then be in their soft girl era, then be in their homeless era if they feel like they need freedom, then go back and then be a boss girl era. Like, a lot of these ladies want the freedom to be able to explore any era, at any phase, at any moment, have a whole phase, but then be celibate, then be born again, right? But then hop into the tarot cards, but then turn back to Jesus, okay? But then, become agnostic if they need to. Like, they want the ability to kind of to embrace whatever phase their energy, their hormones, their emotional cycle is allowing them to do, but men still have to pay no matter what's going on, right? And like I said, that's just not a really good deal. And I think this conversation between these two feminists, although it was a quick snippet, I really think it highlights on that imbalance we're seeing in the dating components. So, okay, real quick, I want to acknowledge some of the super chat. Shout out to you guys. Again, yeah, so you said they adopted feminism because they wanted to be white women. I agree. And the only white women that they knew personally were liberal feminists. Yeah, I do agree with that. I do agree with that. And as I mentioned before, yeah, there were certainly white women who I think really took this. They really took this and ran with it. I mean, listen, I interviewed one last year. I want to say it was early last year. She would, I think, classify herself as an ex-feminist. But she lived as a very liberal white feminist, and now in her 60s, to my understanding, unmarried, no kids, actually has many regrets. And we talked about that openly in my life, and I was really appreciative of her sharing her experience, because she talked about what it meant to grow up, really especially when abortion was really just took off, and what that meant for a young girl coming of age, when now you have access to the pill and all these different kinds of abortions, and you're exploring your body and you're getting all this messaging and you're watching magazines. So she really kind of took me down the road of what it meant for her to grow up as a feminist, to have a mother who was promoting her, you know, really embracing feminism, and then now her years later looking and being like, oh, that kind of sucked. I wouldn't have done that. So there are women, white women, who really embrace that liberal mindset. Yet and still, I don't think it appears they didn't do it to the certainly to the rate that Black women did, because all we have to do is just look at the voting patterns, and look even at the marriages, right? Okay, here it says, Gloria Steinem and a lot of white women feminists were going home to Black men while Black women went around saying Black men ain't ish. Okay, so you know, I'm not as familiar with Gloria Steinem's relationship, her relationship history. If she was a Black man, I wouldn't be surprised at all, because listen, we already know that historically and even today, Black men tend to be the most liberal. They are. Black men are, compared to all other races of men, are the most body positive. I think are the most progressive. I mean, historically, Black men just don't really have a history of oppressing or hating. They don't have a history of like hating or oppressing women collectively. They don't. They don't. Like, it just, so Black men are inherently more liberal. They're inherently more feminist. We see this all the time with the voting patterns. Black men are not intimidated by female leadership. They're not intimidated by women talking at all, by having a voice. Like, Black men collectively are not intimidated by that. Now you'll see, when you see men online, Black men specifically online, in the red pill space, in manosphere, or just even in different echo chambers, if you see them criticizing Black women, a lot of times it has more to do with their own personal experiences or toxicity that they've experienced in their culture, more so than just, I hate women. You know what I mean? For me, in my experience, when I see men who are critical of women, or Black women specifically, it's not because they necessarily hate women as a gender or think women as a gender are lesser than, as much as they hate the toxicity that has been cultivated. So I'm just saying that because I don't know her dating history at all. If she has had a history of being with Black men, that would not surprise me in the least, because her being a feminist and her being with men who are the most liberal as far as just mindsets, as far as voting patterns and like that, actually makes a lot of sense. And unfortunately, yeah, Black women have really been used. There have been Black women who have been used to completely and totally undermine the image and the voice and the reputation of Black men to their own demise. What's crazy is these women, they're short-sighted, because they think that by them tearing their own men down, or by tearing men of their own community, that they are separating themselves. But what they don't understand is that they're actually isolating themselves, and they're making themselves more vulnerable. So as they tear their men down, they're literally tearing themselves down. And this is another reason why, fast forward decades later, and you have the daughters, the granddaughters, and in some reasons, even the great-granddaughters of some of these feminists, some of these I'll say toxic, because I'll say specifically those who had toxic ideals about masculinity. You see their same daughters and granddaughters going online, crashing out, being like, "Where are the men?" Or being triggered because they're alone and they don't want to be alone, but they don't know how to not be alone, because that's all that they saw. Like, the ramifications are not good. Okay, this one says, Gloria Steinem's stepson is Christian Bale, famous actor, and his dad was wealthy. Interesting. Yeah, again, I don't know a ton about Christian Bale. I do know she talked a little bit about her husband. Out of her own words, she said he had no possessions. He was not moved by money. I do know, I know a little bit about his husband. It said that he was an entrepreneur. I mean, that's very vague. And that he was an activist for animal rights and environmental causes. So, yeah. But regardless, what I found really interesting between their exchange was how Gloria Steinem very much positioned her husband, or her late husband, as somebody who was not moved by possessions, who had no possessions. In her own words, she said he had no possessions. She was leading with that when she was describing her husband, and Bell Hooks was quick to be like, well, that couldn't have been the man for me, as if like that was a turnoff. Hence why I said, yeah, these ladies want a patriarch. They want a man who can pay, still be a patriarch, but just don't have the requirements associated with patriarchy. I think we've all experienced that or seen that in some level. You said Gloria Steinem in 1970s Franklin Thomas black guy. Okay, Okay, so all right. Thank you for that. I believe you. I have not done a deep dive. Now I'm kind of interested too. I just found it fascinating that Gloria Steinem basically ended up being a passport sis. And listen, I'm not mad at her. Listen, she described it. She gave a very beautiful romantic explanation. I am not mad at it. You know what I mean? You can find love at any age. She said she married in her 60s. But I just thought it was kind of the way she described it. I was like, wait, so you was a passport sis? Really? You helped him get a green card? Okay, shout out to you, sis. Okay, shout out to you. What's going on with you, Kevin, with the Kevin C with the 3 on the super sticker. I appreciate you. Malarkey, hey, good to see you. Says morning from London, England. Sister Shay, please accept the humble payment of 15 British pounds for all the wonderful content you produce. Hope others will be generous as to contribute as well. Thank you so much, Malarkey. Shout out to you. I appreciate it. Thank you, all of you, for showing some love and support. I really appreciate it, y'all.
That go the money. That go the money.
Okay, so we got a few more receipts to go through. So we talked a little bit about baby mama culture and how that has completely and totally destroyed and failed Black women. It's impacted the whole community. Black men have been impacted, but let it be clear, Black women have really been impacted by single mother culture, baby mama culture, whether it was them believing the lie, whether it was them being told or being cultivated. It's really negatively impacted, Black women. So we talked about baby mama culture. We talked a little bit about how patriarchy, toxic feminism, is another reason that Black women are unmarried. More specifically, unrealistic expectations. More specifically, desiring the benefits of patriarchy, such as provision, such as protection, such as money, image, status, such as all of those different things, pay my bills, while not wanting to live up to the rules associated with patriarchy. That is another reason I think a lot of women struggle to get married, because ultimately men are not interested in that deal. A lot of men are not interested in being treated like ATMs. They don't want that. Okay. Now, here is another reason I believe a lot of women are single. Are single. So this is a tweet that I had one of my followers send me. I thought was fascinating, but also very, very, very telling. And I have to wonder how many women are they're honestly single by choice, but they don't understand the amount of relationships that perhaps they fumbled. Now, so this one right here, it says, I just declined a marriage proposal from my boyfriend of 3 years. He's not what I want in a husband. That got almost 500,000 views. Okay. So now this one here, she got some pushback. This one said, and you wasted your time on him. Here she said, I'd rather waste those 3 years and end up regretting the marriage. Okay. Now this one said, that's the last one you ever gonna receive. So you have some women in there who are, I think, definitely holding their feet to the fire. Right. This one's saying, look, if you knew this, then you shouldn't have kept him. So you have some people who are holding their feet to the fire. But it's like, wait, so if y'all was together 3 years and that wasn't your husband, why did you stay? Why did you stay? What was the point? Because I'm like, if a man gets to the point to where he is willing to propose to you, I'm sure he was dropping hints. Like there were things that were done. There were things that were done where he made it clear he was all in. Because if there's one thing about a man, when a man is all in, he's going to make it very clear. Like he's not going to be wishy-washy on you. She was with a man. He was making it very clear with his actions. Like you're the one that I want to be with. 3 years. And notice she didn't say he was abusive. I saw that he was lying. He was a narcissist, somehow, like they use that, or he was emotionally unavailable, whatever. She didn't really go into detail, because I kind of felt like if he was any of those things, if he had toxic qualities, if they were explicit toxic qualities, those would have been listed. She would have said, my abusive ex proposed and I said no because I realized whatever. right? Or my, my controlling toxic ex proposed and I said no because I finally realized my worth. Like something like that she would have said. And honestly, she would have had a lot of women in there being like, oh, you go queen. Like, I'm proud of you, know your worth, love your worth, never settle. So like, if she had said that, if she had led with the qualities, the horrible qualities that he had, and while that's why she didn't want to settle, there's 1,000,001 women in there who would have resonated with her and would have actually probably celebrated her. But the fact to me that she actually didn't share anything about his qualities that were undesirable or unmarriageable leads me to believe that there wasn't much there. It was just a feeling. And listen, I'm not here to try to shame any woman into marrying somebody they don't want to marry. I think it's better if you know you don't want to be with someone, it's just better to let it be. But why be with somebody 3 years? I'm sure there was things that were done or said for you to know that he was that serious. Why waste his time? And if you know he's not the one for you, then why be in a relationship? And how many women have passed on engagements because they believe there's something better? Y'all remember that video what's her name? I think it was Claudia. Let me see if I can find it. Let me see if I can actually find that video real quick. Because she played, I covered this off maybe a month or so ago. It was so good. It was it Claudia Jordan? I'm trying to think. Not Lisa Ray. She was that famous singer, actress. Let me see if I can find her. But anyways, beautiful woman. You know what I mean? Like in her prime, it's like she definitely had, let's say this, she had options. Okay, she had options. She was a looker. I mean, even now at her age, she's attractive for her age. But back when she was, younger, marrying age, like definitely she had options for sure. But she had a video that I saw make its rounds a few months ago where she was basically talking about how like she recognized that there were good dudes that she passed on. Oh, okay, let me see if I can find it. Okay, I may play this for you guys real quick. Yeah. So I'm gonna play this for y'all. Because I'm like, I think this is all very much, very, 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 very much connected. Okay, y'all. Okay, guys. So let me play this because I think this little video is going to help articulate exactly what I'm trying to say. Shout out to you, Charleston Phil 2659 for the super chat. I'm gonna read it in a bit. I just want to play this and then I'll get to it. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Okay. So this is, Claudia Jordan. She shares her truth on dating over the years and gives advice to Black women.
What do you wish someone had told you about dating like in your 40s and 50s back then?
You think that when you're ready to settle down that there's always going to be a lot of supply in the shelves, and it's not. Like at this age, a lot of the good guys are married or taken because they're good guys. And I was having a conversation with a girlfriend of mine the other day, and I'm like, well, your best bet now is maybe someone that a good man that maybe is coming out of a marriage, getting a divorce. So, I think in our youth, and I would like people to know this, when they're younger, we think, oh, there's always going to be an endless supply. I can wait till tomorrow. Don't put off your happiness waiting. If you find that good person, like a lot of times we wait, well, it's not the right time. It's never going to be like the right time. I would say go for it more. I wish I would have told someone told me just go for it. I probably have overlooked a good candidate before, like me.
Why is that though?
Me thinking the timing thing, maybe prioritizing career. I definitely was always like work. I never thought I had enough cushion built up to like relax and take my foot off the gas and start a family.
And then did that just go on and on and on, and then you be 100 years old and you're like, it's still working.
Still working. And I think I will say specifically with Black women especially, I feel like we don't really have the luxury to think that we can kind of take time off like that. And I specifically say Black women because like we're usually the backbone of everything. Not even just with our families, but with our friend circles. Like it's always something for us to do. We're always taking care of somebody else. I don't have children, but I'm always like feeding a friend or taking care of someone or helping somebody out or doing a favor. And I think that's a cape that we put on ourselves. No one told us to do this. It's just something in us that we do. And if you think about the Black woman in your life, you probably think she's like a superwoman for everybody else. When does she slow down for herself? I think with Black women specifically, it's harder for us to ever feel like we can just kind of take a break. We have to be like all gas, no brakes. I don't think we have the luxury of feeling like, okay, I can take a breather now and relax. And I think it's really sad. You know, there's all these statistics about 45%, 65% of Black women will never get married, you know, and we're out here taking care of everybody else and not getting taken care of. And I think it's really sad. I think we self-impose this cape on ourselves to save the world. Look at all the marches. Look at all, I know this is dating, but I've got to bring it into like the political space. We're always at the front lines for everybody else. For everybody. Brother gets killed, we're in the front lines. The LGBTQ community, we're in the front lines. Other women that are not even showing that up as our allies, we're in the front lines. Gaza, front line. We're always there for everybody else. And on top of all the stuff in our personal lives, we out here trying to save the world. When does that leave time to like really feel comfortable? When does that really leave time to like relax or even just like put yourself first or dating? And I just feel like a lot of women get caught up in saving the world and then they leave little time for themselves.
So you know, that was interesting because a couple of things there, right? She went on to talk about how a few things. She talked about how she acknowledged that there were good men that she ultimately believed that she passed up. She was very explicit about that. She was like, you know, there's probably a good man or two, whatever, that I've overlooked. And she went on to say it was because of time. Right? Like she just said it out front. Now you're saying, okay, so you said Ari Lennox, she recently made that admission. Okay, so I missed it. Honestly, I've been a little quiet on the social media front, just busy doing stuff. So I did not see that video, but like I may have to see if I can find it. Did this happen within the last week or so, or like the last month? Yeah, if y'all have any sources, please let me know because I'd love to review that. But the thing about it is, it's not just her. Ebony K. Williams, she said the same thing. Didn't Kendra G kind of allude to it also as well at some point? Who was the other one? I remember, what's her name? Was it K. Michelle? No, I don't think K. Michelle. I think she was kind of going more feminist with it. But you didn't have these women get to a certain place and they're like, dang, maybe I, you know, fumbled the bag. Now, some of them won't say they fumbled the bag. Some of them will say, oh, well, the men in my, like Tracy Ellis Ross said that she was dating young, she had to date young men because men in her space were too controlling or whatever. So some of them will kind of like, they may blame it on the men, but at the end of the day, there's this idea of like, dang, like there's not these endless options. There's not these endless options. And what I found the most interesting about this particular tweet, the fact that a lot of things weren't said to me shows me, in my opinion, how much was actually said. In my opinion. And again, now we're assuming this, and again, we're assuming that this conversation, this tweet is true. Now, she could have just made this whole thing up and wanted some attention because I'm like, with a name like Sugar Mama. Also, I'm like, okay, so Sugar Mama to me don't necessarily sound like the kind of mindset that's associated with being with somebody's wife. But assuming that what she said is true, assuming that she's not lying just to get clicks and views, there are a lot of women ultimately who feel this way. Claudia Jordan spoke about this, and she wouldn't be the first one. And it's this idea of like basically there's something good. It may be good, but it's not great. Or it may be great, but it's not the best. And I wonder how many women pass over men that were really good, that were quality, that were their husbands, that were it. But because in the back of their mind, there's always this idea that there's something better, there's something greater, there's something there's a dream. Like he's a good guy, but he's not my dream guy. He's a nice guy. He's a stable guy. He's a good man, but he's not my dream man. How many women overlook a good possibility because of that? And so that's what I found to be so fascinating about this particular tweet, or this particular, this tweet, is because I think it really touches on those ideas. Now we're talking specifically about unrealistic expectations in dating and mating and relationships, which oftentimes stem from having a lack of understanding of what actually makes up a family, which comes from coming from households where families are not intact. Like these things becomes like a bit of a domino effect, honestly, truly. So, but that's what I found to be so fascinating. And listen, I know of experiences in my own personal life of women who walked away. I know one friend of mine in particular who was in a very stable marriage. They were financially stable. They had a nice house. They had a nice child. They were, they were a successful Black couple, and she was bored. And the boredom ended up, encouraging her to eventually leave her marriage and pursue this passionate relationship with some artist, and that ended up not going over well. And now this particular individual that I know is back on the dating market and questioning and being like, dang, like I'm ready to be a wife again. But I can remember years ago, she was, much older than I, but I remember years ago when I met her, she was she'd been in a marriage for a long time, but she was bored. And then now after running the streets, she's recognized it. She's like, dang, the streets is cold. I'm using it as an example because, that her example was more extreme. She was already married, had a kid, had multiple houses. So her example, I'd argue, was more extreme. But that kind of can reflect a mindset that certain women have, where it's like, okay, this is good, but there has to be something greater. This is great, but there has to be something that's perfect. And I wonder how many women are into that. And to a certain extent, I wonder how much these dating apps, these romance novels, these viral social media couples, whether it be from like the Nicolandria and the Love Island and whatever viral couple that's happening for the year or for the quarter or whatever, I wonder how much of that actually starts to cultivate, again, these really unrealistic and unhealthy ideas of what perfect love and romance is. And so I think when I see these ideas, it's like there are so many women who fumble good opportunities because in the back of their mind, they see something good and they always think there's going to be something better or greater. And so they walk away from something that actually is really good and stable. And then they hit a certain point where they realize that the options aren't endless. And notice how, Claudia Jordan, she said that when a woman is very attractive, particularly if she's attractive and she's used to getting so much attention, it can almost create this false idea that it's always going to happen. It can create this false expectation that it's always going to happen, that it's always going to be there, that it's always going. So in the back of their mind, they can't imagine a reality in which they're not getting the attention. They're not getting people to approach them. It's hard for them to conceptualize that because that's always been the reality. And so, I know some of y'all like to use the word the wall or whatever. When that does happen, when they do finally hit a reality where they're like, dang, like I'm not getting treated like she's getting treated better than me. I'm not getting in the club for free. Hopefully you ain't in the club at that point, but you know what I mean? Like you're getting auntie treatment. You're starting to get like the auntie treatment. You know what I mean? Like you're just not that anymore. Not to say you may not be attractive for who you are, but an attractive at 55 is different than an attractive at 25. Like just keep it a buck. So when women kind of hit that phase of their life and they're like, dang, like, and they're still kind of there, they're still in that place where they're still trying to find, it can be very humbling and also very confusing. So that's what I found so fascinating. Me reading this tweet already, I'm like, okay, if this isn't a lie, okay, and if this isn't a complete and utter fantasy, if there is truth to this, then this woman is probably young. And I wouldn't be surprised if she was of the mindset, oh, there's something greater. Reason being, I don't see anything in her comments that suggests that this man is abusive, that he is abusive, whether it be physically, emotionally, that he is unavailable, that he is unstable, that he doesn't have a good job, that he doesn't have. There's nothing in anything that I've read from her up to this point that suggests that he himself is not good. He is not marriageable. She just had a feeling. So because she had that feeling, although she had been with dude for 3 years, then she just decided not to take it. And I'm like, well, why did you stay? Was he paying your bills? So again, these are other reasons Black women are the least married. How many conversations did Kevin Samuels have with women who said, "Well, okay, well, how many times are you engaged?" And if any of you guys who watch Kevin Samuels for any length of time, you saw again women after woman after woman after woman who said, "Oh, well, I was engaged 3 times, or 2 times, or I had 5 engagements." A lot of women there who talked about being engaged. And it's like, okay, well, why didn't that translate into actual marriage? Into a long-term commitment that produced stability. Right? So that's another one that I saw. It was very quick, but I was like, I have to show this because I think this is another reason. This is a belief that some of these ladies have. Like, it's good, but it's not. There's something else better, and because there's something else better, I just have to break up what's really, really good in the event that I can find something that's really, really, really good. You know what I mean? So, okay, shout out to you with the $9.99. It says, "I'm a brother and my experience with sisters has been very negative, combative, and mercenary. I lived in a home with May sisters and I would have never dated women like them." Shout out to you with the support on the super chat. And yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. I wish I could I wish I could act as if that was a rare case, but I know that it's not. I know that unfortunately there are many Black men who have had very toxic interactions with Black women, and that's unfortunate. It shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't be like that. And I think that's why these conversations are important, because we don't always understand the way in which we cultivate behaviors, beliefs, mindsets that can be very detrimental to the people around us, to ourselves, and that can ultimately actually undermine what we say that we want. Okay, so now here's another one I saw. Now this is Carrie Hilson. She posted this, I think, earlier this week. It's fascinating. Fascinating tweet. I'm going to show it for you guys real quick. Now here it says, "Sometimes a man with more money is still below you." No, yeah, still below you. Again, it says, "Sometimes a man with more money is still below you." I mean, it wasn't a long tweet, wasn't very descriptive, but there's a lot there. So what this to me is also showing is that rich dusties are real. And this can justify basically any woman looking at a man who is successful, who has the money, who has the image, who has the status, who has whatever, all the things that women actually essentially value, and say, "Well, you're still not good enough. You're still beneath me." That's basically what this tweet is telling me. It's telling me that you can be the most successful man in your industry. You can be the top of the top. You can be top tier. You can be six pack, way over six figures. All over, the Forbes. You can be in Forbes. You can be in the top, whatever. You can be the pinnacle of your career in the man. You can be the most respected in your career. You can be the most successful. And yet, and still, you may still be beneath the woman that you're attracted to. Now, for why? For what reason? That's not clear. What causes a man to be below you is that's not named. But it's just idea that even if you're successful, even if you've made it, even if you've done all the things that many Black women say that you need to do, such as get a college degree, get you a nice white collar job, climb the corporate ladder, or climb whatever ladder of status, so that you can essentially get her into those spaces and places she wants to be. Even if you do that, it's still possible that you're below the woman that you are essentially serving. And I just found this fascinating. I absolutely found this fascinating, because I'm like, I don't even really know what to say to that. But what I want to see is some of these comments. So this one right here says, "The plan is to be a rich wife, not a rich man's wife. This is nuts. So translation, I want his money, but I don't want him. That's really what that is. You want the status of a rich wife, but you don't want to actually be connected to a man. You don't want the responsibility of actually being with a man. That's insane. I think this is nuts. This is nuts. And this is exactly why women collectively are having a hard time finding love. That's insane. That's insane. Now, I think this sounds like this is a matter. So sometimes a girl with all that beauty is still below you. Don't lower your standards to accommodate her. Level up. Yeah, so that's just a man in there who I think is just trying to match that energy. Right here it says, by your logic, a man without money can most certainly be above you. So you have some people in the comment section who are basically like, okay, so let's just use this logic and take it to its conclusion. Money doesn't equal character. Someone can be rich and still lack integrity, respect, or values. I don't think that anybody necessarily disagrees with that. But what's fascinating about this particular tweet is that this tweet kind of sets her as the moral hierarchy, as the moral standard. Notice, she didn't make this more general, like, hey, just because a person has more money doesn't mean that they have the best character or whatever. This wasn't a general statement. This was very much like me, you, right? Like she's very much making this a personal statement. So she's setting herself up as essentially the moral hierarchy in this component. And that's what I find so fascinating, because I'm like, okay, so here's another example, in my opinion, of highly unrealistic expectations, of highly unrealistic beliefs around dating and mating and this relationship stuff. It's like, what are y'all even doing? You're saying that even if a man has made it to the pinnacle of his career, that he's somehow below you. And how do you even define below or beneath? Like, it's so vague. But again, I wanted to share this because like these are the kinds of ideas that just kind of go out into the atmosphere, and I think kind of create a bit of, in my opinion, delusion. I am not saying just because a man has a career means that he's automatically a husband. Just because a woman got a career, or just because a woman has a nice body or beauty means that she's automatically a wife. I think that's pretty clear. But I certainly challenge the idea that always puts men in the defensive position, always assumes that the women are the moral authority and the moral hierarchy, and men themselves have to continue to try to prove that they are good enough. Like I challenge that narrative, because I recognize that relationships are very reflective. Relationships are incredibly reflective. So that I'm assuming Carrie Hilson is still single. I would just say that. I don't know a ton about her relationship history, but based upon this tweet, I'm assuming that she's still single. And yeah, that was fascinating. Now let me see. Okay, you guys, bear with me. I think I had one more example. Let's see if I have enough time. I got a few more minutes, so I can do this. Again, guys, thank you guys for joining me late. We are on the late game here. But I was going back and forth as to whether or not I want to do, because this gets pretty deep. Yeah, this gets pretty deep. I might have to, because this is like a whole 2-part series. I think what I'm going to do, I'm kind of like working this out as we are live. I might do a part 3, because this last receipt that I want to show you guys goes super deep. It's like a whole 2-part series of a I don't even know if I would call it a black. I don't know what she identifies herself, but essentially like a PhD. Let's just say it's a PhD who went viral for doing a whole breakdown on the state of Black love. And what I find so fascinating about this breakdown is her essentially saying the quiet part out loud. claiming that the reason that Black women aren't getting together with Black men is because Black men are not on the same level of Black women. But then she also goes on to acknowledge that Black men make more money than Black women. But then ultimately she acknowledges that the reason that Black women are not happy with Black men is because Black men make more money but are not as credentialed. I mean, it's crazy stuff here. So that actually, I might need to do a part 2, because if I open that up, that's going to take me pretty long. So bear with me, guys. I do have this rather quick example. I actually saw this on Mr. Z. I may do a quick example and then hold my final one for a part 3, because I'm looking at the time now and I'm like, I might need to wrap this up. So I have a few more minutes. While I am looking, I have a few more minutes. So yeah, I got like 10 minutes or so. If anybody wants to call in, specifically if any members, I see you, Game Changer. If you want to call in, Game Changer, feel free to do so. And any channel members, if any of you guys want to call in, anyone who's donated, y'all know the drill. Y'all know the drill. So I'm going to open up the call line. I have a few minutes. If any of you guys want to share based upon what anything that I've shared up to this point, if you have anything you'd like to add to it, anything that you've noticed, I got a little bit of time. So like, share, subscribe. And while we're doing that, I'm going to see if I can find this other example that I was actually looking at earlier that I thought was very fascinating. Okay. Okay, guys. So while let me see. Okay, so it looks like we got Game Changer in the building. Hey, Game Changer, what's going on?
Hey Shay, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on?
Nothing much. So yeah, very, 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 very nice video, very informative, and I appreciate your perspective. I'm gonna put a couple of links in the chat room and I'll send it to you by email. It's actually clips from a TV show called Mod, which is the predecessor to Good Times. Where was a maid on that show, and it showed how her boss encouraged feminism in her, and this took place in 1973. So yeah, that'll be an interesting watch.
Okay.
And in addition to that, what you were saying, I was wondering, do you believe that the Great Migration had a lot to do with the transformation in Black culture from traditional to non-traditional? Because leaving a rural environment to a city environment, I think that may have had its toll. I wanted your thoughts on that.
That's a really good question, because if I think of, let me think about this. I mean, my family is that. I mean, pretty much Black families in California are majority that, Black American families. So I'm like, I can think of both sides and be like, they all came from the South. Now, I remember my grandma very explicitly talking about, she came to the South because she was escaping real racial terrorism, right? Like real stuff. And again, I'm processing this, but I'm like, she was married. Both of my grandmas were married. That's a really good question.
So your relatives, hopefully they're not ancestors, your relatives who grew up in the South have sustained marriages. What about the preceding generations?
Okay, sustained marriages. Well, that's complicated, because it's like yes and no. I can say that I've seen. I can't say that I saw like, everybody in the South was functional, healthy, staying together. They had functional families, and then California now broke up. I can't necessarily say that. I think it was very much of a mixed bag. I think that's fascinating. Now, I will say one of my sides on my family was a lot more educated. And I will say that the educated side of my family, I think they were a lot more open and aggressive about feminism, very much so. Because like one of my grandmas was highly educated, one of them was not. She was a sharecropper, and didn't get past the 8th grade.
Right.
So I could very much see a difference in their mentality around family, around all of that, and I wonder if that actually had a lot to do with their educational attainment, more so, and whether or not they were Southern, came from the South or not.
Oh, okay. So you think that it might be something that's learned or the motivation to become educated? Because
I wonder if it's connected to that. Because as you're asking that question, I'm like, because feminism, it was huge. College was the one that was really pushing it. They were leading with that, and this was at the time when women were being, quote, liberated and can finally get or Black women specifically. They always worked, but they could get access now to specific jobs and things that they weren't able to beforehand. They could maybe even pursue careers. And so I wonder if that was a incubator to a certain extent of a lot of this feminist thought.
Why do you think that white women had no problem, educating and actually meeting their husbands in university, and Black women chose university over their husbands, and white women chose university with their husbands?
Well, I think, as I mentioned before, I tend to feel that from what I've observed, particularly from the swirler space, that Black women want to replace white women. See, white women already know their position inherently, even if the ones who are promote all the the feminist stuff, ABCD. When it comes down to it, and when it comes down to a point of survival, we already know what's going to happen. We know who they're going to side with. That's why a lot of Black women were crashing out over the last election. Now, with that said, so white women already know their position in society. They know they can't be replaced. I think Black women, to a certain extent, desire that, and I think there's this like weird idea that ladies have that having education, that having closer proximity to white men via their spaces and places, whether it be through college, whether it be through being able to work with them in the corporate buildings or whatever. I think somehow that some of these women who really want to be white women think that closer proximity is going to perhaps give them that dream. So if you're someone who aspires to be with white men, I mean, I have multiple videos of Black women openly expressing their desire to be with white men as a way to level up, as a way to get more status, more power, more wealth. They openly admit it. If that is your goal, to replace white women, then you're going to aspirationally date and move forward in the white system to try to get with a white man, if you're going to leave the Black man behind. If that is your ideal, is to try to assimilate as much as possible into white Western culture. So I think that I'm not saying that that's everyone, obviously, but I do think that that's a pervading belief, simply because I just see so many women who are actively acknowledging it, like just blatantly saying it. And I'm like, wow, you're saying the quiet part out loud.
Well, I think that swirling, to be perfectly honest, I think of it a little different than you do. And I watch all your videos on it.
Mm-hmm.
I really think that swirling is a mating strategy for unattractive women that they use on attractive women. Meaning that a swirler, let's just say the colorism catfish, for example, right? It is in her best interest if women who are more attractive than her date elsewhere, forcing Black men to date her. I truly believe that. I mean, like when they talk about high value men, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, if you take a look at the pattern of her behavior, of, the woman that you call the catfish, of her behavior, she dates Black men, but yet she encourages swirling heavily.
Right.
She's obviously, for a top Black man, for as she would say, hypergamous Black man, there would be a lot of competition for that. So what she has to do is eliminate the competition.
Right.
Because he's going to pick from the top of the deck.
Right.
And what her hope is that she convince the women who are above her as far as value to him, that they date elsewhere and that he remains loyal. That's also why she's fiercely against Black men swirling or Black men dating interracially.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, basically it's like limiting the options. It's kind of like, the people who were waitlisted for Berkeley trying to convince you not to go.
Yeah. No, totally. I could totally see that.
Yeah, that's how I view swirling. It's a mating strategy for unattractive women, that they impose on attractive women who just happen to be in their same social circle.
I think so. I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. I think it's a mixture of both. I think there are women, like you said, who they strictly use swirling as a way to, as you said, try to shame Black men, control, mate guard. I definitely think that's there because there's some Black women. I mean, you listen to the way that they talk, the way that they move. It's like there's no way you would even. There's nothing about them that could even if they wanted to assimilate. There's nothing about them that seems like they would even be attracted to that. So sometimes Black men are just blowing smoke because of whatever, they mad that their baby daddy, whatever. But then there are those out there who I think are actively like have Miss Anne syndrome. Like I do think there's both going on. Now,
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and the way that they present themselves online it also seems like it's a mating strategy on the women who are trying to do it. They're trying to create a false sense of scarcity amongst Black men, kind of like when a commercial tells you, you better call now because supplies are limited, basically trying to make it clear that,
that part. No, for real.
Yeah. So, I mean, there is this push to get Black men to push towards Black women more, and creating a false sense of scarcity is that too. There are a lot of mating strategies that are in the Black community, none of which includes real hair and, losing weight, unfortunately, and having a better attitude.
Well, what I find fascinating, I mean, and you, like, I think when you had mentioned the Jim Crow dating strategy, I never really thought about that, but I was like, wow, that is so profound when we think about some of the, like what some people call the reach back videos that just seem really cringe. They don't seem genuine. They don't seem authentic. Like they may be cute on a 14-year-old Black girl. You know what I mean? Like somebody, a preteen, but you're 34, you're 44. Like, no. So I was like, I think that's very insightful. But another thing that I don't understand why this hasn't clicked collectively in the minds, or I think in the culture of Black American women, of why we just can't actually be competitive. Like the shaming isn't work. The yo mama Black obviously doesn't work. And I'm like, you could just be more competitive. Because I don't like that's what women do. Like you could just actually make yourself. But something about that, I think, something about that inherently makes women, I think, very, very, very uncomfortable. As if it's this idea as if, as a woman, you're not supposed to have to do anything for a man for the express purpose of pleasing a man in any way, shape, or form. Like to do that is to lower your value as a woman.
Well, a Black man.
Yes.
They do everything to please a woman.
Sorry. Yeah. A Black man. Yes. Let's be very clear. To do anything for the express purpose of just wanting to please a Black man it's like in the toxic Black American female ethos. It's completely it's like, I don't know, it's like slavery. They see it as like connected to slavery, or as
and swirling isn't slavery. That's not connected to slavery at all.
Which is crazy. I know.
Yeah.
It's very bizarre. It's very bizarre because when you see women, like the amount of times you've seen, my husband was telling me about some example. I can't think, but I think it was like a celebrity or something. I don't remember who it was. Probably some Black celebrity with a snow bunny, if you will. And you saw all these Black women in the comments who were mad. Oh, I know. This is what it was. I think it was some Black college graduates. And it wasn't like, I don't even think it was like athletes, but they just had white girlfriends or non-Black girlfriends. And you had a lot of women in the comments who are just like, oh, their moms didn't teach them how to love Black women. Their moms aren't raising them how to, or their dad, whatever, right? Like they're being like, oh, they weren't raised how to love Black women. Why weren't they trained how to love Black women? But at the same time, I'm just like, okay, so you can argue that, but also why aren't the Black women in his class and in his culture around him, like, why aren't they getting together? Because to me, if you grow up around your culture, you love your culture, you value your culture, and then you find another woman who is attractive, who is of your culture, like that's going to be your first pick. So if you're going outside of your culture to find something that is more comforting to you, then it's like, well, what does that say about the culture you're coming from? Like, why was she willing to compete, or why did she get his attention more than the women of his actual culture? Like, I think these are the questions we're not willing to have. It's just like, oh, he just needs to love Black women because his mama Black. And I'm like, that's not a good sell. It's not.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, being local, you probably don't watch it. I don't watch basketball either, but I mean, you know Steph Curry and you know his family situation and everything and how he met his wife. I will say that I believe in my personal experience that most Black athletes do prefer situations like that, where they meet their significant other while they're on the come up, exactly. And so it's amazing the opportunities that Black women pass up.
Yes.
Like I can't imagine. I know someone personally. I told this story before. I know someone personally who shot down Ryan Coogler. Yeah. Yeah, it was like at a tennis thing or something. I forget the story, but yeah. So it is amazing that the number of missed opportunities that they had and won't admit. I mean, you can't pretend like these guys didn't either date or try to date until college or until they signed that contract. You can't, like all of them were high schools, all of them were high schoolers, all of them hit puberty, all of them, really tried in some way, shape, or form with the women around them.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. And I'm going to be honest, because for a long time, I believed the general narrative about, oh, well, these Black men don't. I believed that. And it actually wasn't until I actually started to hear a Black men's story, and I was like, oh, I never considered that. You as a woman, you never consider the amount of men you turn down or you look the other way or you whatever until you're like, oh, dang, I guess we do that, huh? We do just like ghost people. We do just, literally turn them down, don't consider them their feelings. We do all of these things as women and don't ever consider that also plays a role in how men may choose.
Yeah, agree. I mean, I can't imagine like, a young Black athlete not being turned down by at least one Black woman before dating out. I mean, because it's years. It's not just a small period of time. It's years. They've been, all of your church congregation growing up. They've been, like 90% of your classmates growing up. I mean, and then what do you expect? Like, this is the first one that showed him attention in probably, his entire life, really.
And another thing too, what ladies also don't talk about is and we do this to each other. Sometimes women will encourage other women to play hard to get. Like if you like a dude, if you're attracted to him, sometimes you'll have friends who'll be like, "Oh, you don't want to come off too easy, or you don't want this and that." Like this, like they'll make it in a weird toxic way to make it to where it's like, "Oh, well, you don't want to give too much to this man." Right.
Yeah.
I think that's, I want to say that's a little more prevalent, honestly. I feel like that's a little more prevalent among Black women, if I'm gonna just keep it a buck. Because I don't, not to say that doesn't happen with other races, but I'm very close friends with non-Black women and I see the way that they move differently. I'll just say that much.
Well, it's a baseline, and because there's hard to get, which, is a woman being polite but distant. And then there is completely, I hate you, and if you try to say something to me, I will bark and bite.
Right. Right.
And this is what, like, they don't even smile. They, so, and like you, I went to a Northern California PWI, and I have to say, when I first started interacting with non-Black women, which was in college, because I grew up in Oakland, it was very difficult because I confused just general polite behavior that they have with flirting.
Right. Exactly.
So their baseline is polite, where, for a Black woman, polite is flirting. So if they're telling women, to play hard to get, then that means that they're not even being polite. They're just walking around scowling like they're Omega Qs, like they're just, have that dog face at you. It's like that doesn't really help. But I mean, a little bit playing hard to get, maybe a little coy. It's nothing really too much wrong with that. I mean, men like to pursue and women like to be pursued. So a little bit of that,
A little bit.
but it has to be measured. It has to be, it has to be in moderation.
Yes. No, absolutely. So I'm very let's see. Kevin C, he says, "Oh, Kevin C, are you back there? Is that
Yeah,
you?
can you hear me?
Oh, hey. Sorry, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
Wait, is that you? Hello?
Yes, can you hear me?
Oh, hey, yeah, I can. Sorry.
Okay, I didn't know if I was up there.
Oh, sorry about that. I'm just not seeing.
The story I told you took place prior to college, Kevin.
Oh, okay. No, yeah, but I'm talking about the woman who actually married him. So he was in college. He was struggling. He was a football player. He didn't have, this before NIL money, right? So he didn't have any money to actually buy the software that he needed in order to write screenplays.
Okay.
She met him. I guess they started dating, and then she saw that he was having trouble. She actually scraped together the money, bought him the software that he needed, and helped him develop one of his first screenplays.
Realization.
And that's the woman and they stuck together, and that's the woman he's married to today.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, so
that's shooting in the gym. That's how it's supposed to be done. That's shooting in the gym with him.
That's an example of a missed opportunity that she is a Black woman, but a lot of Black women missed opportunities like that.
Yeah, no, exactly. They do, because there's this one mindset that says, and I have to see if I can find it. Maybe I'll cover it off at another point, because it was actually on Mr. Z's channel where he was doing something on feminism, and it was a woman who in one moment she was lamenting about being chronically single and never ever having had a romantic relationship. But then when women were pressing her and being like, hey, like maybe you could work on your appearance a bit, or like just trying to tell her things that she could do to try to become more, just get attraction, she crashed out and she was like, I'd rather die alone before I ever did anything that for the benefit of a man, right? She just totally crashed out. And I'm like, what? So this is a Black woman, 24. She went on a whole it was crazy. Like you could definitely tell that she was in her fields. But this idea of she was on this whole decenter men thing while lamenting that she never had a man, but then also saying that she's not willing to do anything that a man would find desirable. And I'm like, girl, get offline.
and that's what I think that goes back to what your friends were saying about playing hard to get. I think that they took it to a level of absurdity, because she obviously wants men. But to walk around like, oh, I'm decentering men. I'm not going to do anything for his, and that's playing hard to get to a completely absurd level.
Completely absurd. Well, and the thing is, I can think of the many different conversations that I had, my late teens, early 20s, when I would express man, I'd like to be with somebody, just express desire in relationships, and always feeling like I was being gaslit, being like, oh, don't worry about it. You're in college. It's not a big deal. You have a lot of time in the world, having other older women who aren't being like, oh girl, okay, let me help you this, or have you considered this, when we were just like, don't even think about it. Kind of like, putting cold water on the fire, So that's why when I, at the beginning of this live, I played some of the other videos, I was saying, y'all, this stuff is generational. You have generations of women who would be, in theory, our elders, saying men are not necessary to the home, saying you don't ever want to do anything that's going to make a man, that's going to make a man happy, or that would be considered desirable to him. You don't want to do that. You don't want to come off as so easy, or you don't want to, just saying all these different things that are like, bro, you can't, y'all don't want to be reciprocal. I don't get it.
Oh no, I can tell you right now, it's they're saboteurs. It's deliberate. They understand older single women, they're still on the market, and younger single women are competition to them.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
And not by a little bit. A 40-year-old man would much rather that 24-year-old woman than a woman his own age.
Absolutely.
So she's going to sabotage her. It's not polite. It's not an accident. They're doing that on purpose. They're giving them deliberate wrong advice.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. I didn't know it at the time. Now I get it, and I'm like, man,
Of course, they would much rather be with your husband, and they would much rather you took their bad advice and left him behind, like Ryan Coogler. Like that's
That's why you don't see me posting. I'm like, I barely post about what we do, and I barely post about this. I'm like, I don't trust none of y'all females.
Yeah.
Well, so the decentering concept really is more of a coping strategy because they generally don't qualify. So and instead of just saying, look, I don't qualify for a husband, I'm going to decenter men because I can't figure out how to get one. So and I don't want to do the work. So I'm just going to. So my excuse is I'm just going to decenter men. Look, here's the deal. Look, there are women, and I don't take any pleasure in saying this, but Black women are not married at about a 70% plus rate.
It's not, yeah.
So that they've effectively decentered men. They can't decenter men any more than what they've already done.
That part.
They're successful. Like you got to stop, otherwise you're going to have a 10% marriage rate. You see what I'm saying? Like they can't go any further than what they've already done. So they really need to get off of that decenter men concept. And then this whole thing about smash the patriarchy and all this other stuff. It's crazy talk because these are the same women that'll say, I'm looking for a man to provide, protect, problem solve, be productive, be a leader, be confident, have character, have good integrity and character, and all this other stuff. That's literally part of the patriarchy. That's all of the. Now we can argue about people taking advantage and doing the wrong thing. Now, if you choose the wrong man in a patriarchy, then you're going to suffer under that under that system. But if you again go with the men that do all of those things that I just listed: provision, protection, problem solving, leadership, a man of character and integrity, you're going to be okay. So those are the guys you have to go for.
Right.
That's it. Those are your choices. And if you disregard those obvious choices and you go, well, you know what, I'll spin the block and come back to those guys later. Those guys are going to be with somebody else. Even worse, they're going to go outside of the race. I mean, people can argue whether it's bad or good, but these are the women who say that it's worse that Black men go outside of the race. When I argue that Black women have the first shot at it. You're losing on your home field. Black women have the first shot at Black men.
There's no argument that they do. I mean, unless he grew up like Carlton Banks, which most Black men didn't, they have definite first shot at him.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I'm like, to a certain extent, it's like, okay, so we fumbled the bag. Ultimately, if like a man has to go outside of his own culture to find somebody that he feels more comfortable with, what is that saying about the culture that he's around, or the women?
Bros got to go outside their own country. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like that to me that kind of that. There should be some further investigation. I'm going to say that much.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, but our culture isn't designed to make families anymore. It's designed for something else. It's designed to allow women to survive independently.
Yeah, that's true. No, that's very true for sure.
But it doesn't though, because these are the same women that complain that they're having issues and problems, trying to raise these kids by themselves. They talk about all the issues and the associated problems with raising kids without a husband or without the guy that they created these kids with. And it's not working at all. It's complete fail. And even worse is that this is the problem I actually, and a lot of men actually have issue with it in the sense that they dismiss the account for themselves and put 100% of the blame on men. That's the real problem, which is why if you don't ever take account, then it's never going to change. And if all you do is just blame the man that you had the kid with, and you're still making all of these kids, and usually it's a kid, it's a guy with like 6, 7, 8 baby mamas. Like they got plenty. It's the guys who are not working, not doing what they're supposed to do, never going to be a good husband, never going to be into raising kids, none of that stuff. They're the ones with the most kids. They're never going to be married. They got the most kids.
Kevin, it's really like she showed in the video, in the Vanishing Family videos. It's welfare culture that exists past welfare time. Because the people in the 1985 video or 1986 video that Shay Sade showed, they grew up in a system where welfare was 18 years until the child was an adult, and they basically retired at 16, and then after the child becomes an adult, they go out looking for a man. So I mean, that was their mating strategy, that was their life, that was their career path, so to speak. Now it's a lot different. The welfare system is a lot different, but they're still using that old playbook, which is why they go out and find a guy. I like bow-legged boys.
Right.
They can't do stuff like that anymore because 5 years you're gonna be looking for Kevin C to marry, and you got the 5-year-old there. They don't keep you on it for 18 years anymore. So they really have to, think of a better way to deceive the government, to fraud taxpayers. They have to think of a better way now because it's failed.
Right. No, absolutely.
Well, the most sensible and practical thing is to actually just marry the guy that you had the kids with and raise those kids in a stable 2-parent home. Anything but that.
Yeah.
Which is crazy, right? While they're complaining the entire time about all the associated problems that come with raising a kid by themselves. This is that's the accountability portion of it.
I mean, I think somewhere along the line, someone told them that Black men don't love Black women primarily, and they believed it even with overwhelming evidence to the contrary.
Right.
Well, you know why that is? Because they just missed the data, like the actual verifiable data. I was on a live stream, some woman said something that I wasn't even going to pop up, but I popped up because she said something that was just misinformation, and I was able to pop up with the data that the study, the agency that produced the study, government agency that produced the study, and the short title of the study, and all this other stuff, and then I flashed it on the screen. You know what? They just missed all the data anyway. They didn't even care.
They don't care.
That's what we're dealing with.
They don't care about the data. It's not about the data. It's about the narratives, it's about the anecdotes, and it's about the feelings. Because anytime you bring up data, they'll say, oh, well, in my family and in my circle, or my auntie or my friend or whatever. So they don't care about, that's not how this works.
But you can't use anecdotals because you first of all, when you're telling a story, you could be lying. The other part of it too is that's just your story. That's just your area or your region of the country, if you want to say that. That's just the country is what happens in New York doesn't happen in California, right?
But Shay,
that's why you have to look at verifiable studies, and you got to look at data that gives you that paints you a better picture. Now you can deduce what do you call it, you can make deductions based on statistics, you can do that, but you can't just say stuff without it and then just make up a bunch of statements and narratives that you can't even prove and then expect people to accept it. At least men aren't going to accept it. That's one of the reasons. That's how you get the man.
They're cherry picking. I think that they're being deliberately deceptive, Kevin, because Shay Sade is, well, I know she's a sister, but she might even be an auntie or something like that. So, she's likely a niece. So all those women in her family and friend groups and church groups can say, I know a woman who competed and won.
Right.
I don't know many people that can say they know a Black woman who has competed and lost. I don't know anybody who can actually tell that story. They make movies about, stuff like that, like Waiting to Exhale, like, 11 years and he just left her for Becky out of no. Yeah, that doesn't happen in real life, But yeah, they all know a Shay Sade, yet they choose to believe that, she don't exist. That, I don't know why. I think it's deliberate deception, Kevin.
One of the things I've noticed is that it's the women who are married, specifically Black women who are married, who get the most resistance and pushback.
Yeah, it is.
Shay's not the only one who does this, and I just noticed that whenever you get a woman who actually talks about issues specifically relating to Black women, because they're women, so they care about Black women, and they're talking about Black women's issues, and they're trying to, and a lot of these women actually have like programs to develop younger girls to get them on the right track. So these are good women trying to do good things within the community. And you'll have women in the comments and just flash on the screen and just openly be antagonistic and say, hey, you need to change your content. You need to stop doing and stop talking about that. Like this, it's women giving the productive women the most pushback. Men are, I get it. She probably, Shay, you probably got a lot of male subscribers, and I get all of that. But there's some women, there's women who agree with you. But the thing is that going outside of your network and the people that listen to you, you're going to get more. If you were on if you were on a debate stage and you were talking about these issues, I can guarantee you there'll be more women disagreeing with you and giving you more resistance than actually agreeing with you. You probably have one woman on your side. And that's what's frustrating to women who are trying to do the right thing.
That's no, I'm sure, because you do get, even if they're women who may secretly agree with you, you are going to face the scrutiny of being the one who's outcasted. And a lot of women don't want to deal with that. They don't want to deal with that. They'd rather just either be silent and just not even engage, maybe quietly agree, or in some instances they just actively do disagree. They are with the narrative, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
So this, but here's the problem, though. The problem is that even if you silently agree, and if you make less noise than the women who are much more disagreeable, then the disagreeable women win. That's the problem. So now it looks like all of y'all agree.
Define win.
Yeah. That's how it looks. I'm not saying that's what's true, but I'm telling you that's how it looks, and that's how men rationalize that in their mind. Well, shoot, where are the women who are combating the negativity and actually, telling the truth? I've been in discussions where I actually said, there are more Black men producing children within the construct of marriage with their wives than outside of marriage, and people thought I was crazy. But those are the facts. We have more Black men making babies with a wife than outside of marriage. It's basically, the deadbeats that get chosen. Like I said, the guy who's in and out of prison, I suppose, or just not even being productive. They got time to make like 10 babies.
Yeah, I did a report.
I'll take care of any of them,
especially if he's bow-legged.
And they're doing that with a lot of different women. And when you say that, it's like, I don't believe that. I'm like, well, that's what's happening, because we just showed you the data and the studies and everything else that points to the fact that most Black men are making children with their wives. There are women who literally believe that 80% of Black men have children. 80%. When we have multiple studies that show that less than half of Black men actually have produced children.
Yeah.
And understand, Black men are consistent with other races of men. The last one I looked at was 2023. You got 50% of actually Hispanic men actually have the most kids. Well, it's Hispanic men at 50%, Black men at 46%, white men at 45%, and Asian men, interestingly enough, at 35% have produced biological children. That's it. So we're consistent with everybody else, but yet the narrative is that Black men got babies all over the place. How we get to that? That means Black people, Black women specifically, and some Black men, and then the general society has to believe, needs this narrative it has to be out there that Black men are making babies all over the place and just being irresponsible. That needs to be the narrative.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Well, I actually have to head out. It's late. We're getting late over here. So, thank you guys for joining me like last minute. I have more to cover off. I thought I was gonna get it through this live. Yeah, absolutely. So, guys, this has been good. This was super last minute. I am going to probably do a part 3 because I thought I was going to get through everything on my receipts, and then when I got to the last portion, I was like, oh no, this could be a whole live in and of itself. So I'm going to have to follow up and culminate this with the other receipts. I know you said Game Changer, you have some other stuff to share. So this is an ongoing conversation because Black women being the least married and least partnered is kind of a big deal. It's something that's been going on for quite some time. So anyways, we'll continue this conversation. I appreciate all of you guys for joining. Thank you guys for bearing with me. Thank you for joining me super late. I didn't mean to go almost 2 weeks, but sometimes life gets busy and home life takes priority. So that's what I was dealing with. But we'll talk soon, okay? We will talk.
All right, take care.
Thanks for joining. And guys, stay tuned for other upcoming lives. And hopefully I can take some more calls and all that jazz. All right, guys. All right. Well, we'll talk later. Okay. Peace out.